Hello and good afternoon. Today we're going to learn how to make a budget within Microsoft Excel. Let's go ahead and open a new blank workbook within Microsoft Excel. Let's save this. And once we are in our blank worksheet, we are going to want to add two more worksheets to this workbook. So once you have multiple sheets, it's now a workbook. So let's double click on sheet 1 at the very bottom. I'm going to call this income. I'm going to click on the plus and then double click sheet 2. Expenses, we'll call this. And then we can click on sheet 3 and double click the words sheet 3. And we will call this savings. Okay, I'm going to hit the enter key. And notice the green highlighted text is what is active. So we're going to want to click on the income. And now we are in the active income tab. In this particular worksheet, let's go ahead and list out the categories that we would like. So source, hit the tab button, and then date. And then we can do actual and expected. If you're salaried and you always have the same income, you don't need the actual and expected. But if you are hourly or have fluctuating hours, then you might want to document that. So I'm going to go ahead and highlight A1, B1, C1, D1, and I'll just go up here really quickly and increase the font size with this A and the arrow. I'm going to click that a couple times. I'm going to click on this paint bucket, change the fill to green, and then I will go ahead and highlight in between each cell just to have them expand to fit the text. In the source, I'm going to put my name and my main employer. I will put the dates that I am paid and my actual income. This particular pay period was 500. I had hoped to work more hours and earn 525, but that didn't work out. If I begin typing again, notice it will take the history of something that matches it within the sheet. So I can go ahead and just tab. I'm going to put June 30th as the next pay. My actual pay was 525 this time, and I had expected 525. If you have birthday money or a side gig or something like that, you can go ahead and enter that in here and put that and whatever you had earned. What we'll want to do now is go down a few cells and we'll want to enter the word total. And I'm going to tab over to my expected column, and then I'll go ahead and click Auto Sum at the very top right. And what this is going to do is select the cells above it. And I'm going to hit the Enter key, and that's going to give me a total of my income. I am now going to select A6, hit the Shift key and arrow over. And what I want to do here is I'm going to highlight this gold because this is our money. And I'm going to make this font a little bigger. I'm going to change it to something a little more interesting looking. And this way we have a very clear picture of what our total income for the month of June was. For my expenses, I'm going to go into the next tab, the expense worksheet, and what we'll do here in the interest of time is I will just enter a few categories, but in your real life you'll want to assure that you're entering every single expense that you could have in a month. So I'm going to go ahead and enter some categories here. Home, I'm going to go down a few. Food, family, transportation, schooling, medical. Okay, and within each of these categories, I'm also going to just make this a little more aesthetically pleasing before I go into what we're going to put into them. So what you can do is you can select multiple cells, and then you can go over to the middle here and merge and center. Then go under data and middle align, and then you can actually go within and pretty this up and make the font different, things like that. So within our home, obviously we would have things like rent or mortgage, if you have taxes, insurance, utilities, you know, so electricity, you have trash pickup, things like that. So in each of these categories, we can do the same thing. You know, just make this look nice. And this would be groceries, dining out, any type of food cost that you have. You have some kind of subscriptions for Instacart or Shipt or anything like that. And you'll want to make sure that you include everything. So in the family one, this might include things like childcare, any costs that your children have or that you have for your family. So I'm going to go ahead and start entering in column C some monetary amounts. So we'll just do $9.50 here, we'll do $75 here, we'll do $50 here, and this would be monthly. So I have a large family. If you dine out, I don't currently have childcare expenses. Transportation would be car payments, insurance, repairs. You want to make sure that you include everything. So I'm going to say $45 for oil change. I had insurance, car payment, things like that. So once you have all these entered in, we will go to the bottom again, just as we did on the income. We're going to type total, and then I will go to the top right and auto sum. And notice this time it did not go all the way to the top. So you'll want to click and drag that blue box all the way to the top of your C column, where everything is surrounded by the blue box, and hit the enter key. Notice now I have a total. I am going to click and select my column, my cells to create the total column. And this time I'm going to make this red because this is our expenses. Make this bold, make it stand out. All right. So here we have our total expenses. So we've done our income, we've done our expenses. And notice that there is a large differential. So in my case, I might need to then add my husband's income. because obviously that is going to contribute to my household if we live together. So I'm going to go ahead and put his in here, and just once a month. So now I have my income, my expenses, and then we'll go to our savings tab. And what we're going to do in the savings tab, you could call this anything you want. You could call it excess, you could call it fun money, you could call it anything, but I am just going to be very simplistic and say income minus expenses so that we know what is left over in our monthly budget. And what we can do here is we can calculate from different worksheets. So I am going to select Auto Sum at the top right, and notice it's waiting for me to type something in the parentheses. Leave the cursor there, take your mouse over to the Income tab, and select that final income number, the total. And notice that it has placed it up here in this box to calculate it. After the parens, you want to type the dash or the minus key on your keyboard, and then take your mouse and go to the Expenses tab and click in the field with the final amount of your total expenses. Notice that's highlighted, it's selected, it's a dashed box, and then hit the Enter key. So now in our Savings tab, notice there is a number here, 355. That is the income minus expenses. That is what you have left over once you calculate your income and subtract the expenses. And just for aesthetic purposes, I'm going to go ahead and again enlarge this. I'm going to make this green. I'm going to go ahead and double click in between the A to make this larger. So this is our amount that we have left over. On the Savings tab, some people like to have a zero-based budget, and what we would do with that is say, well, I have an IRA and I have a college fund for my child, and I have an emergency fund. So we now know in this particular month of June that there's $355 remaining that we can allocate to these items. So you could then say, oh, I'm going to put 55 in the IRA. I'm going to put 300 in the college fund, and that leaves nothing for the emergency fund. So you might want to play around with these numbers a little bit in order to allocate those funds where you would like them to go for that particular month. And what we can do in this particular case is we can hit the Auto Sum button. And what we'll want to do here is we are going to select our C1. And now we have equals sum and C1. So that's the $355. What we want to do then is subtract, and then we'll type in sum, and then in parens we'll say B2 and a colon, B4 and another parens, so see that here, and we'll hit the Enter key. And now what it has done, it has taken our C1 and subtracted the sum of B2 to B4. So if I zero this back out, you should see a change in this. It looks to be that that did not quite work the way that I had hoped. So let's see. Oh, because I have here B2. So notice that if you type in the wrong column, it will, when you click on this calculator, it will tell you where it's getting this information from. So I'm going to go ahead and change that to C2 to C4. and then hit the enter key